Eh, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera kepada semua rakan-rakan yang bersama-sama dengan saya bahagian pentaksiran dan penilaian akademik bagi sesi ketiga kita insya-Allah. Di samping itu juga I think that I would like to wish salam Ramadan kepada semua rakan-rakan yang berada di luar sana. Mudah-mudahan Ramadan ini kita diberikan kemudahan dan juga kelebihan untuk menjalani ibadah dan insya-Allah kepada rakan-rakan yang menyertai webinar BBPA untuk kali ketiga, terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada mereka. Dan sebelum itu tadi sempat saya chat bersama dengan rakan-rakan di ruangan, ada yang hadir kali kedua, ada yang hadir kali ketiga. Terima kasih saya ucapkan. Dan ada juga yang bertanya berapa lamakah sesi webinar kita. Kita hanya memperuntukkan 30 minit sahaja perhatian tuan-tuan dan puan-puan to get know what is the best for us. Dan saya yakin juga maklumat yang ringkas dalam 30 minit ini dapat membantu kita serba sedikit dalam menguruskan hal berkaitan dengan program akademik kita. And Alhamdulillah ada juga rakan-rakan kita yang hadir kali pertama. Saya ucap salam perkenalan dan saya ucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada rakan-rakan yang hadir. Untuk maklumat tuan-tuan dan puan, I think that I really hope that kita nak capai 5,000 subscriber. Jadi kalau boleh saya nak minta tuan-tuan dan puan ringan-ringankan tangan untuk subscribe dan insya-Allah we will update you on the current video dengan lebih mudah. Alhamdulillah. Alright. Thank you so much. Salam Ramadan kepada semua rakan-rakan yang mengucapkan di ruangan chat tersebut. Alhamdulillah. Okay, without further delay, insya-Allah today's session is supposed to be like kita nak bincangkan beberapa perkara tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. I think that we are talking about the part 3. Obviously those who are coming the part 3 bagi warga UiTM, you will get 30 minutes per session. Kiranya you dah berjaya kumpulkan lebih kurang dalam 1 jam 30 minit jam latihan. Dan bagi mereka yang bukan warga UiTM, anda akan diberikan CJ penyertaan di akhir sesi ini nanti insyaAllah. And for the part 3, we are talking about the blueprints for success. I think that previously we are talking much about the necessary things on regards, and I think that for the blueprint for success, a 5 stages guide to OBE implementation. And obviously, let me start with by examining the major updates in the GGP, Good Guideline Practices, Program Designs and Delivery 2023. Saya harap tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, most of you juga mungkin dah boleh ataupun dapat melihat dokumen ini. Ini merupakan dokumen rujukan yang boleh kita guna pakai. And obviously this document is a very good document because it's helped us to see the best practices on program developments and delivery. And yes, the emphasis of this document, we are talking about how could we expand the use of the principles of OBE. And obviously we are talking about how does the MQF 2.0 streamlines with all its domain into the 5 clusters which are more practical and much easier to align. And on that note, we are also asking all the program owners or the program leader to review and remap their CLOs and PLOs, and it's always become a crucial step for alignments. Obviously, we are talking about the constructive alignment. And throughout this document, we are also emphasized the SLT calculation and the delivery types. We are talking about the virtual, online learning, work-based learning, effective learning times, and this must be well calculated. Dan untuk memastikan bahawa we can get a curriculum more flexible, there are emphasis in terms of the sequence, the fundamentals to applied learning, and more elective and diverse experience. And it must be, I think that this document is very good because of it was a cross-referencing with MQF 2024, helps to the program leaders or the course leader to understand the flow and the philosophy of curriculum structure. So this is where that the blueprints of success is very important by understanding this document. And to emphasize, We are also talking about the innovative and also the creativity in teaching and learning, and how does we enable the innovation and ensuring continuous quality improvement. And then we want to emphasize more on the constructive alignment and connecting our MQF learning outcome domains with the assessment and also the SLT. All right, so this is where that the CLO is very important for us to emphasize on the weightage, because of it will reflect the true importance of each outcome. That means building assessment and SLT allocation logically around what really matters. All right, so then we look at the use of MQF 2.0, the 5 clusters of learning outcomes. Saya percaya tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, most of you well known about the MQF 2.0. This is not something new, even though the MQF 2.0 2024 been introduced by adding up a few elements. And I sure that when we design our programs, we need to make sure that there are some sort of contextualization by the discipline. I think that most of the difficult part whereby how the PPT, the program leaders or the course leader to maintain their body of knowledge in translating in their academic program. And most of the comment by the auditors, there are always a biggest challenge when the PPT try to realign their body of knowledge with the program academic that offered by their programs. So normally memang akan berlaku perkara tersebut. And I think that most of the auditor may concern ada setengah-setengah program yang sebenarnya kadang-kadang ada masalah berkaitan dengan body of knowledge. Alright, and this is where that all the program leaders and the course leader really need some sort of attention and really need to understand how important the body of knowledge that be inserted in their program standards. All right, and we are talking also about the differentiation. The differentiation can be defined through the academic level. How could we differentiate the breadth, the depth, the complexity of the learning outcome for each level? And I think that sometimes you need to find these descriptors practical for writing strong PLO, CLO, and assessment plan. So meaning that the consistencies of graduate outcome is very important, and the utility for the curriculum developer, whereby the descriptor have to serve as a guidance for the curriculum developers in formulating the program learning outcomes, the course learning outcome, assessment strategies. Now, saya rasa tuan-tuan dan puan, we are very glad because of most of the program standard that published by the MQA already exists, the PEOs, PLOs. It becomes a guidance for us, and these PEOs and PLOs set as a minimum baseline for everyone to refer to make sure that they are really understand what kind of graduate competency has been sought by that program's standards. Okay, and the most critical part when we talk about the program's design, whereby we are talking about the SLT calculation and delivery type. Ini saya percaya lah tuan-tuan dan puan. SLT calculation is never ending story because of there are always an issue in terms of finding the logic behind SLT limits and the semester structure. But obviously, for your information, a full academic year stretched with a maximum 23 weeks inclusive holiday and exam periods. Meaning that dalam setahun itu tuan-tuan dan puan, kita ada 43 minggu sahaja. And the institution are allowed up to 3 semesters in a single year, typically with two long semesters and 1 short semesters. Jadi ini lazim. Jadi I think that when we talk about the 43 weeks, break down into 3 components, 2 long semesters and 1 long semesters, and the student should not exceed 50 credits in any year of study, including both core and elective component, and every semester the maximum load is only 20 credit. This must be well known by everyone. Because of what? Because we are exercising maybe in regular. Most of the PPT or HCP, they are regulating their week within 14 to 17 weeks per semester. Sometimes there are a PPT might be lesser than 14 weeks. It's depending on how do you operating your program academic. Okay, all right. So, and then we are talking also about the curriculum structure and flexibility, how flexible your curriculum. So meaning that when we design our curriculum, the blueprint also need to consider how flexible, what are the structure of your curriculum. Is it your curriculum structure today focus on putting the learner at the heart of the everything, or we need to design in diverse need, in different background, or maybe there are some aspiration to ensure relevant and accessibility. This is where every component must be aligned with the program learning outcomes and the MQF domain to guarantee measurable impacts. Jadi tuan-tuan dan puan, the flexibility now become a center pillar because of the student engaged in core courses, industry training, or even capstone project. There are room for elective or interdisciplinary choice, enabling richer and more personalized study pathway, and the student can progress at their own pace with the opportunity to switch course, transfer credit, and stack micro credential towards full qualification. I think that currently we are talking about the micro credential, stackable, unbundling or stand alone. Jadi ini adalah antara perkara-perkara yang mungkin boleh menjadi sebahagian daripada blueprints of our success in designing our program academic. And I think that the most important part here is the modes of delivery. Sometimes you want to conduct your delivery on online, hybrid, self-paced, to ensure that all learners get the access and there's no one is left behind. But then we still want to maintain the experience. And I think that another one part, because of our blueprint nowadays, maybe looking on the conventional approach, we should look at a different approach. For example, like recognizing prior learning and alternative learning to support lifelong education. For example, APEL. We have that APEL A, APEL C, APEL M, all right? And I think that APEL Q, and this kind of access actually gives some sort of flexibility to our curriculum. Even though when we talk about the credit transfer, it can up to 30% to 50%. Also, the opportunity we should take in designing our program. And with these approaches, the curriculum become truly adaptable, preparing graduate for evolving career landscapes and also continuous personal growth in their certificate to the doctorate level. And I sure that with the incoming digital technologies, now this become the backbone for the innovative curriculum and delivery. I do believe that most of the university right now, they have that learning management system like Moodles, Blackboard, that bring structure more flexible to blended and online learning. And while talking about the technology, assessment also is a part of the most significance, whereby the technology can be embraced. We have the assessment tools, the e-assessment tools, including AI-driven feedback and quizzes, and help us to track and personalize the learning progress. This is something that maybe we should look at, meaning that sometimes we spend our time so much on delivery, but there are a time for us to think about how could I design e-assessment to accommodate students from a different pathway, like those who are maybe working students or something else, something to do with not conventional. And surprisingly, with the incoming of open and distant learning, the things become slightly different, because now we need to shift our focus into developing a good self-instructional material or SIMS, because of this is also aligned with the learning outcomes and also designed for the autonomous navigation and allow students to become more self-guidance in a way of learning in that such types of programs. All right, and I sure that the flexible learning access is always to attend the needs of the working adults or maybe the remote learner by ensuring the inclusivity in education. But not to forget, bila kita melihat kepada innovative technology and delivery, but we are also need to think about ada juga pelajar-pelajar kita yang with special disability. So meaning that we are not only just coining on the accessibility, but also the inclusivity in education. All right. So this is where the CLO need to be, I think that this is where that the CLO assessment need to be emphasized by the assessment, because of, I think that the assessment weightage must truly reflect the significance and the complexity of the CLO. So sometimes bila kita mengukur sesuatu tugasan, I think that in terms of the burdens of the students, or maybe in terms of the efforts of the students, it's actually the assessment weightage must be reflected. This is where that we as a course leader or the program leader, we need to really justify the depth or the breadth that match with the assignment that we give to our student, with the time and also the assessment and the assessment proportion. And our goal here is to make sure that the CLO must be direct with the assessment task, but then rooted in the right MQF domain and taxonomy level. And precaution notes, we must avoid overloading any single outcome by neglecting others, and the balance is very essential. All right. So in designing a programs, I sure that there are always 5 steps. We start with to perform the stakeholders need analysis, study the requirements of the discipline, formulate the POs, PLOs and CLOs, and then we are talking about to plan appropriate learning and teaching method, and then followed by plan and curriculum structured in and delivery. So, and I do believe that the points whereby the step number 1, we need to perform the need analysis, is always become our starting point, because of we aim to ground the curriculum in the real workforce and industry realities, whereby this process is to ensure our graduates are genuinely employable, adaptable, because of we don't just look at the current need, but we anticipates the future trend at local, national, or even international level. So by systematic consulting a broad range of stakeholders, from industry, professional bodies to alumni and students, we collect essential insight to ensure that we can shape our program relevance, and also by having a specific purpose. So this is where that the institutional goals and the contextual relevance are always at the forefront. It's just not about box ticking exercise. It's a core in producing fit for purpose industry ready graduates, and this collaboration with educators and experts keep us accountable to quality and the standards. So this is also been highlighted in our COPA standard 1.1.1, 1.2.3. The department must consult the stakeholders in the developments of the curriculums, including education expert as appropriate. This is we can refer under COPA area number 1. And by looking at this point, the stakeholders and responsibility, also their expectation has been showed, meaning that each of them really give us some sort of idea how does the employer and the industry define the job market competency and trend, the professional body looking on the accreditation and the compliance, the government agency looking on the policies and regulatory, educators, we are talking about implementation and the curriculum quality, student alumni, they give us the real feedback, community and parents, this is something that what they expect from our graduates. All right. And the step number 2, this is very important for us, because of the step number 2, this is where we understand the discipline really requires. Graduate characteristics are not shaped just by our program, but also by national and also industry standard. The program standards and the industry benchmark guide us in defining what competencies our graduate must possess. And I do believe that academic levels, the types of qualification will differentiate what kind of graduates that suitable for them, and how could we make sure there are a demarcation between academic level. So each academic level need to be set by their different learning outcomes and we need to map this with our own strategy to make sure that our certificate, diploma, bachelor program, master or doctorate program must be served to the purpose. All right, and obviously, the step number two normally incorporate the program standards, the integrations of accreditation bodies, and I do believe that this is where that the program standard is very important. This is whereby the program standard need to be referred, and we need to understand which program standard that we belong. Sometimes there are a program leaders, they don't understand, they don't know what is the best program standard for them. It's according to their body of knowledge. That's why every program standard nowadays they provide us some sort of formula on how to make sure that we can establish the learning outcome. Jadi kalau kita baca, I think the most of the program standard ada maklumat-maklumat ini. Alright, and for sure when we design our POs, CLOs and whatnot, is depending on the graduate profile. So that's why it's very important for us. The graduate profile need to be really understand, even though there are some references from MQF 2.0 2024 in appendix 2 page 35, there are a graduate profile explain different levels of qualifications and the expectation. And obviously these program standards help us to serve the purpose of what is the best for our students, because we start to capture a different expectation. We are talking about what is meaningful to the students, and every learning outcomes at every stages is built with the ends goal in mind. Personally capable, must be well-rounded graduates. And step number four, we start to plan on the appropriate learning and teaching method. So this is one of the example how does the Bloom taxonomy level can be used, meaning that when you choose your CLO verbs, you need to think about your suitable teaching method. For example, like explain at C2, meaning that the suitable teaching method that correspond to the explain is interactive lecture and guided discussion. Meaning that when you choose your verb, it was not like just choosing for the sake of to complete or to construct your CLOs, but it must be reflecting your teaching and learning methods. All right. And step number 5, we are talking about to plan a curriculum in a structure. All right. And the curriculum in the structure really matters, because of the curriculum is the sum of all plans learning experience in learning institution, and outcome-based education will drive the designs of the curriculums. So meaning that the sums of plan might be involve courses, teaching methods, assessment, co-curricular activity, practicums, industrial training, and this must be aligned with the PLOs. And when we talk about the outcome-based curriculum principles, we are talking about I think that normally on the traditional way, we are thinking on content, teaching and assessment. But with outcome-based education models, we should look at our PLO, the course design, teaching and learning, also assessment, and the graduate competencies. And learning outcome are the starting point. And the key principles of the curriculum structure, we need to really understand the constructive alignment. I think that the constructive alignment by John Biggs, progressive Bloom level, just not only Bloom, we also can refer to the Simpson, Crawford, the balance of MQF domain. I think that the two addition is value-based education and sustainable competencies, and how do we integrate theory into practice according to the graduate profile or maybe body of knowledge of the programs. All right. And obviously, the designs of the curriculum was very unique. I think that this is something that I'm very like to discuss, because of when we design the curriculum, we need to look at our curriculum in vertical alignment, whereby the scaffolding, how does the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor complexity increases progressively. So meaning that, for example, year one, foundation, maybe you want to facilitate with knowledge C2 and C3. Year two, development, maybe application analysis. Year three, integration, evaluation, and creation. This is maybe some sort of example whereby the progression happened in that particular program, but not limited into cognitive, but you also can expand into affective and also psychomotor domain. And then the horizontal curriculum alignment, we want to look at the course complement each other, the skill reinforce across subject or maybe courses. Must be no duplications of learning outcomes in terms of maybe the contents, the assessment, the intention, and also must be a balance in terms of assessment loads. And my final takeaway is the curriculum is designed backward, learning outcome determined, structured, and also the teaching activities by Bloom verbs, Simpson and Crawford, and assessment measures the same verb and continuous quality improvement is meant to close the loops. So I do believe that when we talk about this one, I always take my priority whereby you have the good PLOs, you need to have a good assessment, then you can have a good delivery. It can be either way. All right. So what next? This is one of the example. How does the PLO mapping across the 5 clusters, and every courses is systematically aligned with the relevant clusters in learning outcomes. You can notice that from knowledge, skill, interpersonal, digital skill on all the domain exists in the MQF 2.0 is addressed through specific courses. This is whereby the program leader and the course leader need to decide the learning outcome is best for which courses. All right. And this table highlight how each courses support different PLOs and helping us to monitor the coverage, and also we want to avoid the gaps. Our curriculum structure is intentionally designed for brave and depth, reinforce key skills and attributes, meaning that at the end of the day, the graduate will have well-rounded capability, ready mid-industry, academic and societal demands, and this alignment is a strong foundation for both program quality assurance and also quality improvement. So for sure, tuan-tuan dan puan, this is whereby when you get all the mapping and you start to cascade, and the course leader take their responsibility to develop the courses accordingly. But in this webinar, we are not yet talking about how the program blueprint can be developed, because of the program blueprint need to be developed to understand what is the best graduate that we want to produce in our program academic. Sebenarnya kalau saya nak bercerita tentang program blueprint, dia sangat banyak, because of the program blueprint, this is what we intend to have, and normally the program blueprint is actually very unique for every program. So for sure, tuan-tuan dan puan, for the first 30 minutes, I think that it's just a glimpse of how could we really emphasize the 5 stages. I think that if you want to go further to expand and to know better about these 5 stages, normally we take about 1 or 2 days workshop. But then I try to comprise within 30 minutes, and to make sure that adalah sedikit pengetahuan ataupun orang kata apa, sedikit gambaran bagaimana program-program ini dibangunkan merujuk kepada 5 stages OBE implementation. And for the next coming session, this is whereby the part 4, the arts of the outcome, precision writing for PLOs, PLOs and CLOs. Jadi ini juga antara perkara yang saya akan bincangkan pada minggu hadapan, pada hari yang sama, pada waktu yang sama, insya-Allah. Jadi tuan-tuan dan puan, obviously, when we talk about this session, the 5 stages is actually ada banyak perkara-perkara yang perlu kita ambil perhatian. There are a lot of document need to be referred, not only good guideline, program development and design, not only MQF 2.0 2024, but there are also additional document that becomes our panduan dalam membangunkan curriculum. So meaning that many things that we can learn on how to develop a good program, bukan hanya sekadar untuk kita membangunkan PAO ataupun PLO semata-mata, but we need to understand what should our program looks like. Jadi sebab itu saya katakan tuan-tuan puan, sebelum kita bangunkan program, sebenarnya bagus untuk kita meneliti apakah bentuk, reka bentuk ataupun apakah graduan yang ingin kita hasilkan. Jadi this blueprint is very important because of we putting the question marks, and then we start to construct our PEO, PLO and CLO. So on that note, tuan-tuan dan puan, I think that we are reaching about 30 minutes. Thank you so much for your participation. Terima kasih kerana hadir. Jangan lupa isi link kehadiran untuk hari ini dan anda akan memperoleh jam latihan bagi warga UiTM dan juga bagi rakan-rakan yang berada di luar sana yang bukan warga UiTM, anda akan menerima sijil kehadiran. Jadi saya ucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada semua rakan-rakan yang hadir pada hari ini. Wish you and insyaAllah kita cuba jumpa minggu depan. Lock your dates. InsyaAllah kita akan berjumpa pada 27 hari bulan Februari jam 10 pagi dengan topik yang keempat insyaAllah. Terima kasih semua. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampai jumpa lagi.